Thank you, Air Marshal Chopra, Air Chief, former Air Chiefs, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, Amitabh, and friends, and members of Mr. Jasjit Singh's family. I am here substituting for Mr. Rasgotra, so I'm sure all of you will join me in wishing him speedy recovery and that we will all be in a position to greet him on his 100th birthday. He was here last year chairing the Jasjit Singh Memorial Lecture, and during this year on many occasions, even though he's turned 99, he has been at many functions around Delhi. So I'm sorry that he's not with us this morning. I think a very interesting subject has been chosen this morning for Mr. Kant's lecture. And I'm going to say a few words on the relationship between Jasjit Singh, myself, and the subject. I will, of course, continue to refer to Jasjit Singh as Jasjit. It's one of the privileges I had of knowing him over the years that he would always say, don't call me Air Commodore, just call me Jasjit. And that is how many of us who worked with him, who traveled with him, we were on a first-name basis. I first came into contact with him somewhere in the mid-90s, I would imagine around 95, when I was the editorial page editor of the Times of India, and he used to write columns for the Times of India. But my regular interaction with him began when the government of the day, I think Prime Minister Deve Gowda was there, and then Foreign Minister I.K. Gujral, asked the Institute for Defense Studies to go around the world convincing think tanks in major national capitals as to what was the legitimacy of India's stand on not signing the Comprehensive Test Ban Treaty. As many of you would recall, this was the time when there was enormous pressure on India to sign the CTBT, and Prime Minister Narasimha Rao was even forced not to conduct the nuclear tests in December 95. So Mr. Gujral asked IDSA, and IDSA formed a group. It was led by the late K. Subramaniam, who was a guru to all of us, and Mr. Jasjit Singh, as the Director General of IDSA, was in charge of organizing the group. The other two members were Uday Bhaskar, who was, I think, Deputy Director General of IDSA, and C. Raja Mohan, who was a geopolitical analyst. And one day I got a call from Mr. Subramaniam saying, look, come to IDSA, we are having a discussion and I want you to join. I was the odd man out. I'm an economist by training. I used to be with the Economic Times before I moved to the Times of India. And when I landed there, I was told that, look, we have been asked by the government to travel to various capitals to convince people, particularly in influential think tanks, as to why we are not signing the CTBT. So Mr. K. Subramaniam would do the tough talking, Jasjit would talk about defense, India's defense challenges, Uday Bhaskar would supplement that, Raja Mohan would talk about geopolitics. They said, we need a guy who can tell the world about the economic opportunities in India. 1991, India had opened up a new trade policy, new investment policy. We were seeking partnerships around the world. India had become an opportunity for the international investor. And the idea was that I would then chip in once the professionals had done their job in justifying India's nuclear strategy, decision not to sign CTBT, the defense challenges it faces from China and Pakistan, that I would then dangle all the carrots and say, look, these are the investment opportunities. This is what is going to happen to the Indian economy. We are a rising economy, an emerging market. And you fellows, instead of punishing us, should in fact work with us, invest in us. India is a rising free market democracy. From 95 or somewhere around that time, I don't remember the exact date, over the next 1 year, we traveled to Washington, to Berlin, to Paris, to London, to Tokyo, to Singapore, about 6 or 7 capitals of the world, addressing very influential think tanks. And that is when I became friends with Jasjit. And as I said, those travels kind of create a friendship of sorts. We used to refer to Mr. Subramaniam as K-Subs, which is a name he still has among those of us who've known him over the years. And then when he stepped down from IDSA, one day he called me and said, look, I want to form a forum for national security studies. Let's set up a new think tank. And I found myself as a founder trustee of the Forum of National Security Studies. The relationship between India's economic rise, India's emergence as a major global economy, and its strategic policy, its defense policy, this relationship was built, the academic construction of this relationship was built during this period when in 1998, the government of India the Prime Minister decided to set up the National Security Advisory Board. Again, I was inducted into the NSAV precisely in order to focus on this interaction, that we were no longer looking at defense policy, no longer looking at strategic policy independent of our economic interests and of our economic connections. And I think today when I say this, it sounds pedestrian, it's something so obvious, so commonsensical. It's an obvious statement to make. But in the mid-90s, in the late 90s, in fact, when I was made a member of NSAB, many of the members were wondering what is an economist doing here. We had former air chief, army chief, navy chief. We had former chiefs of IB and RNDW and retired defense secretary, retired foreign secretary, all the geopolitical analysts, Brahma Chalani and Bharat Karnad and Rajamohan, and then I was the economist thrown into this group. Well, I think what we have come to understand as a country today, in the academic world, in the strategic community, in the media, is that power resides in the economic foundations that we build. I think China's rise as a geo-economic power. It is still not a military power challenging the United States. But today, China is where it is because it is a superpower as far as trade is concerned. It's the world's biggest trading economy. It has trade links with every other country in the world. And we are seeing the convulsions, the pyrotechnics of the Europeans and the Americans who talked about decoupling 2-3 years ago and are all now switching and re-examining their relationship with China, because none of them can decouple. They are so integrated with the Chinese economy that whatever their differences on Taiwan, whatever their comments or criticism of the communist system, there is no way that either the United States or Europe can stop doing business with China. Their economies will sink if they really resort to the geo-economic containment of China. That is the lesson we have learned. And I'm delighted that we have today, this morning, Mr. Amitabh Kant, who has worked in ministries dealing with economic policy, and now as a G20 Sherpa, is dealing with these geopolitical challenges India faces to address us this morning. Thank you very much.